All right, so again, we're continuing to watch this video. How does this all female species reproduce? We are talking about it because we were reading about a virgin crocodile that ended up reproducing asexually and had about 14 eggs. Oh wait, where's the video? Okay, back to this.
Parthenogenetic lineages will accumulate harmful mutations over time, and eventually, after thousands of generations, will reach a point of so-called mutational meltdown. At this stage, individuals will be so compromised that they can't reproduce, so the population will nosedive, leading to extinction.
Makes sense?
We haven't yet seen this entire process unfold in nature, but scientists have observed an accumulation of harmful mutations in parthenogenetic stick insects that are absent in their sexual relatives. Only time will tell whether this will cause their extinction. Otherwise, some parthenogenetic species appear to have ways of circumventing mutational meltdown. New Mexico whiptail lizards came about when two different lizard species hybridized, creating this new all-female species. As hybrids, their genome is a combination of the different sets of chromosomes from their two parent species.
Wow.
This gives them a high level of genetic diversity, which may allow them to survive long into the future.
Which I think is the example of an asexual organism that it doesn't fall under the category of Muller's ratchet, because that organism has already gone through its own combination beforehand, which in this case is the same thing for the whiptail lizard. Very interesting, and it's also pretty indicative of what the Muller's ratchet is all about. When they showed the image, they showed an image of what would kind of be the difference between asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction, when they show a illustration of a smaller grasshopper that was under the category of asexual reproduction and is smaller than the sexual reproduction, which would be the other grasshopper that is obviously bigger, and goes hand in hand with what they're talking about, because that's where the combination that occurs in sexual reproduction, is shown. It's obvious. It's obvious. You could tell they're trying to prove a point with it, that albeit they can reproduce asexually, but because of that combination that only occurs during sexual reproduction, then you obviously get different variations that can then be bigger, smaller, different colors, different physical structures. In this case, the mating of those two lizards resulted in an all-female hybrid with enough chromosomes from both that could then create these offsprings asexually that also have a whole bunch of chromosomes in them as well, from both of their grandparents, I guess, in this case. Bro, science. Especially when you see it from the perspective of someone that... I studied arts in school, so I'm completely fascinated by everything space science and history wise. It's, I don't consider myself dumb, but I am, realistic enough to understand that there are plenty of people in this world that know a whole lot more about things than I will ever know. My wife is one of those people. She's just fucking incredibly smart, genius smart. And I am not, which is fine, because I get to see it from the perspective of a learner. While I don't have that going for me, I'm curious, and I I love to learn and I love to ask questions and I love seeing things that lead me to another thing, and I like understanding what people are trying to say, and I'm again fascinated by all these topics and whatnot. So I don't know. Me, I see it as a win-win situation, and as long as I have that curiosity and you have it as well, dude, it's you you finally get to understand that learning is very fun. As a kid, you'd hear that shit and you're like, I don't know, because you don't understand the value of it. But now, as an adult, what? This is fascinating to me. Like, holy shit! And the fact that we're so so ahead in technology and time. I mean, we could be a whole lot better, but the fact that we're able to have so much data behind things and it's shown in such a fun, interesting way. Oh, what a time to be alive, man. That's what I'm talking about. I started reading about this because we were, again, reading about the crocodile that had a virgin birth and laid 14 eggs in her enclosure. 16 years there, never had any contact with a male crocodile. So, we will continue reading into the article. Last thing I read, which was what led me into reading about, put the music back on, about parthenogenesis, is okay. So, but in animals capable of parthenogenesis, the polar bodies fuse with the dividing eggs, making the foundation for a viable fetus. The research into parthenogenesis in crocodiles also revealed interesting hypotheses about the ability of other long-extinct animals to asexually reproduce. This new evidence offers tantalizing insights into the possible reproduction capabilities of extinct archosaurian relatives of crocodilians, notably the Tesauria and Dinosauria. The study detailed. Interesting. I don't understand this. Why is it called that? So is that, I don't understand. So is that like the actual... Okay, so it was a term... I am reading from ucmp.berkeley.edu. The Dinosauria. Okay, so the term Dinosauria was invented by Sir Richard Owen in 1842 to describe these fearfully great reptiles, specifically Megalosaurus, Iguanodon, and Hylaeosaurus, the only 3 dinosaurs known at the time. Okay, so it was just a... Okay, I thought that was a specific type of dinosaur, but no, that's just the name given to a diverse group of reptiles of the clade Dinosauria. AKA dinosaurs, I guess. So, given the asexual reproduction ability of birds and crocodiles, it is likely that their common ancestors, dinosaurs and Saurus, possessed the ability to reproduce asexually as well. What this tells us is it's very likely that this also happened in Pterosaurs and dinosaurs. Warren Booth, an associate professor of entomology at Virginia Tech who studied the eggs, told the New York Times, "We'll never be able to prove they could do it," Dr. Booth said, "but it suggests they had the ability." But given the fact that we already know a little bit more about parthenogenesis, if that would have occurred, then it would have been high risk. The species would have ended up at some point going extinct, I guess, based off of the data that the previous video that we watched about parthenogenesis explained. Interesting. It says And although parthenogenesis can create viable fetuses, it lacks the genetic diversity of sexual reproduction and can often lead to less healthy offspring. Despite this, some animals capable of parthenogenesis use this method even when fertile males are plentiful, like the California condor. Interestingly, some females can lay a clutch of eggs made up of both normal offspring and parthenogens. Interesting. Because of this, Dr. Booth suggests that parthenogenesis may have an evolutionary advantage. Their offspring could live just long enough to meet mates and produce more genetically varied and healthy offspring, if they are able to reproduce in both ways. Because it's obvious if it's only asexually, then they're not going to be able to mate and have that combination and reproduce and whatnot. Whatever the reason, Dr. Booth believes this is an ability that can possibly be switched on and off and may be controlled by a single gene. Booth and other study contributors write that parthenogenesis is likely possessed by a distant common ancestor of bird, snake, and lizard lineages, but of course researchers must collect more data to fully test the evolutionary distribution and dynamics of parthenogenesis across deeper evolutionary time.